According to the Axios report, pending the nomination clearance process. So they're going to clear him first, which is sort of unusual. The other appointments were made, they'd be cleared first and then they'd be announced, although some of the consideration was made public. So I guess we're at a point now where there looks like his next two appointees are going to be explicitly political appointees, and whether or not the market is concerned about that. I will point out that I was thinking it through, Scott. He's appointed exactly one monetary policy expert to the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. That's Richard Clarida. Powell, not. And Bowman and Quarles, not as well, though Quarles is a banking regulatory expertise, and that's his job there. But in terms of monetary policy expertise, he has leaned, it would appear, more towards people who would support his economic platform than those with expertise in central banking.
Well, the interesting thing is people know Herman Cain for running for president, may know him from Godfather's Pizza.
Right.
He was chairman of the board of the Kansas City Fed, so it's not like the guy has no Fed experience whatsoever.
Right, but just be clear, those guys do not engage in monetary policy.
Understand.
Okay. He knows about the system. He
is described, as you suggested, it's a political appointee because he would agree with the president's take on his economy and his economic agenda. He's described, though, as an inflation hawk.
Right, a guy who said that interest rates need to go up because the economy is growing.
Well, Trump's not looking for that.
So that's the opposite. Well, can we just go back to the quote that you put up earlier, Scott, which makes no internal sense, right? It says, despite the unnecessary and destructive actions taken by the Fed, the economy is looking very strong. Well, if the actions taken by the Fed were unnecessary and destructive, how is it the economy is looking strong? I'm missing something here.
Look, we've discussed sort of if there's a narrative.
Am I right? You guys want to help me? You're ruining the facts. I was an English major. That was my sort of basic expertise here. Am I missing something, Scott? No, help me.
Look, if something does go wrong,
I don't know.
Don't look here. Look at Powell and company, who raised rates too fast and got too aggressive. That was the crux of the Brady and Lindsay op-ed. It's been Kudlow arguing for 50 basis points. But back to Herman Cain, though.
Yeah.
He's questioned the dual mandate. In the past,
gold standard he proposed in his presidential campaign. He wanted to go with the gold standard.
That makes sense.
That worked out really well.
Yeah.
And it was the 999 sort of tax plan that people may know him as well. You go at 9% individual income tax, 9% corporate rate, 9% national sales tax. But I just go back to what appears to be an opposing, publicly stated sort of view of an inflation hawk with someone who doesn't think there's any inflation, President Trump, and says there's no reason to continue raising rates because there's no inflation in the system to speak of.
There's something of it's not quite a crisis, but there's a dilemma inside the Republican Party when it comes to figuring out what its monetary policy orthodoxy is. Most of these folks in the Obama administration were screaming that rates were too low, were going to create bubbles, and needed to be higher. And now that the president is in there, we had stronger growth. They're opposing it, arguing that there's a supply side. Look, the president has a right to appoint who he wants to appoint. The Senate has a right to choose to confirm or not. The question I have is, okay, let's say they get on the board and they support the president's policies by going with lower rates when the president is in office. These terms are 14 years, Scott. What happens when a Democrat gets in control? Does that mean the market should bank on higher rates? The presidents have appointed people who they liked to the board, but it has never been quite so explicitly, as I recall, political as this.